welcome back to another episode of Over the Glass. I am your host, Jay.
And other host Nessa. Gong Hei Fat Choy.
Yay, Happy Lunar Year, or Gong Hei Fat Choy if you speak in Mandarin. I am horribly ABC, so I apologize for my pronunciation. We mostly said Gong Hei Fat Choy around my household. My Chinese side is, I think, predominantly from Hong Kong. So there's a lot of Cantonese spoken at family gatherings when I was growing up. My zodiac is a pig. What's your zodiac, Nessa?
I'm a monkey.
Yay!
My mom is also a pig. Well, boar, isn't it? Either way.
Well, I think they've like renamed it, but I grew up being referring to it as a pig, so
Okay.
I think it could go either way.
No,
Yeah.
I'm a monkey.
But this year is the year of the rabbit, and that's just as much as I know.
I actually grew up doing kung fu. I did kung fu for about 5 years when I was younger. And so I got a little bit of knowledge on how Lunar New Year is celebrated through those classes. With the red envelopes, the lion dancing, which is why I love lion dancing so much because I've actually seen people practicing for those performances and what goes into those practices. I was actually in the San Francisco Chinese New Year parade once as the butt of a lion once.
Aw.
I didn't do anything because we were just walking. I literally just had
Mm-hmm.
to hunch over and walk.
Well, every part of it is important. You're the
Yeah,
one that's holding the fort down.
I guess.
So we did see some celebrations around the league where there were Lunar New Year nights to raise awareness and to celebrate. The Sharks did one. What were your opinions on those festivities?
Specifically for the sharks, I really liked the design. I thought it was interesting that a lot of the teams who are celebrating it with their jerseys, most of them decided to use the rabbit in their logo designs, but the sharks didn't. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm wondering if that was something that the artist decided to do because she's Vietnamese, right? Like Vietnamese American.
I believe so. Yes.
I wonder if it's something she wanted to do or if it's something that the sharks asked her to do.
I saw earlier today that based on the Vietnamese lunar calendar, it's not a rabbit.
Yeah, so that's what I was gonna say was that depending
Okay.
on what country celebrates it, I guess there's a different animal for the year or whatever. So that could play
Yeah,
a
it's a
part into
cat.
why. Yeah, I don't think does the Chinese calendar have cats as one of their
No.
yeah. So it's different, which that's what I'm like. It could play a part into why. I really like the design though. Specifically, if we were talking about the patch designs, the
Mm-hmm.
shark fin was really cool. I like the lantern; that was cute. I really liked the Vancouver Canucks logo because it was like a mix of the rabbit and their flying skate logo.
Yeah.
That
Mm-hmm.
was pretty
Mm-hmm.
cool. The the Vegas Las Vegas Golden Knights had a really nice one, and they had a nice touch of having the players' names in Chinese, which I was like, I dislike this team, but this is really cool.
I thought it was okay. The New Jersey Devils, I think, did the same thing last year. I thought they were nice to look at, but they weren't my favorite. But I will acknowledge that it's nice to see that the teams are putting in that effort.
Mhm.
Do not read the comments because people are being incredibly racist, as
I
you
have not.
unfortunately would assume, because people are just like that, sadly. But but
Uh,
yeah.
I also okay. So one of the things I was really excited about that the Sharks decided to do this year. I'm not sure if they did it previous years, but they gave out the red envelopes, and I
Mm-hmm.
think I can't remember if they used the design the same logo design as the jerseys or if they had something completely different. I don't remember, but I thought that was a cute touch.
I
I
thought
don't
that
know
was
what was
cute. Yeah.
I don't know what was in the envelopes, but
Yeah, that's what I've been wondering. What are you guys giving them? Because I think it was handed out by a bank, right?
was
I
it?
can't imagine. I think so.
Oh my
I think
god!
they partnered up
Like
with like a bank.
you've been pre-approved for a credit card or something.
Yeah. I did really love the lion dance. I saw that the person who I guess organized that or led the charge or whatever is part of their staff for production. So that is a group that I don't know if he co-founded it or to what extent he was responsible for the creation of that group. But it's nice to see younger generations trying to keep those traditions alive and put their own touch on it and things like that, and to have the Sharks incorporate that into their celebration. Like for me, I mean, I've seen it all the time, so coming from my background, it's interesting to watch other people experience it.
I feel like even just growing up in the Bay Area, because we have a real decently sized like Chinese community specifically in San Francisco, the original Chinatown, and they do the Chinese New Year parade, and it's like we're exposed to it more than other people might be. So I don't know. I there's probably more of an appreciation for that side of the culture, I guess, than somewhere in, say, pick a city. I don't know. Las Vegas.
Yeah, it would be I guess more surprising to see it in an area that you would otherwise not expect for that to happen. And maybe we will see it. The elephant in the room kind of is looming over me a little bit as I think about this stuff, but we're trying to open the episode with some positive stuff.
Yeah.
And well, the one thing that I didn't like about the Sharks celebration is the NFT.
I
No
forgot.
one needs the NFT. What do you call it? Movement or fad? I don't know what it is. That whole like
Trend.
yeah, interest around NFTs, and I did see that there are like more eco-friendly ways to offer NFTs, and I did read that the Sharks kind of like went into that direction and stuff like that. But with that said, the general idea behind NFTs I'm not a fan of.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, it just still seems like it's a bunch of rich people who are just bored and just want to do something with their money. Not only are you hurting the environment, but you're also like the people who occupy those spaces are folks that have all the money, and if you're not part of that group, you're still not going to be able to get your name out there anyway.
Yeah. I have two things. One, you mentioned the the impact on the environment, and I feel like a team like the Sharks, because they have an animal as a logo, should be very conscious about their impact on the environment, right? Maybe that's just me, but I feel like, just to put it out there, maybe they can do something with sea life conservation. Monterey Bay Aquarium is down the road. Hello. um, Secondly, I honestly do not understand the point of NFTs. Like, you buy it, you get the original whatever digital copy of it. Then what? What do you do with it? It just it just sits there. Like, I don't that's it, like, I don't understand what the hype was, because they're not as talked about as much anymore, but I don't get it. I think from what I see, it's just a bunch of people who suffer from a severe case of FOMO. Because why else do you need something like this?
Just people who are bored. People with a lot of money who are bored. Um,
Anyways.
but but that's what I have to say about that. So for the most part, I enjoyed what the Sharks put together. I hope folks that attended that game had a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun watching it from the clips that I saw or what was shown on the broadcast.
The teal lions were a nice touch.
Yes, that was my favorite. So hopefully everyone had a good time. So let's talk about the elephant in the room. So as everyone probably knows by now, the Philadelphia Flyers had a player who decided to opt out of warm-ups where they were wearing their special Pride Night jerseys. He decided it went against his religious views to support the LGBTQ plus community. And I've had a lot of thoughts going through my head over the last week. I don't feel like I have the right answer going forward, but it does cause me to feel even to have even more trust issues with these types of events because they already feel terribly performative, and this I don't know to what extent the Flyers seem to care about how this kind of affects their outlook to their fans, to the authenticity of these events that they put together. I know that they have two guys on their team that have like gone out of their way to support the LGBTQ plus like youth within the Philadelphia area. I heard that they gave out tickets to queer youth to attend the game. So there's a lot of stuff that I feel that we need to highlight. But at the same time, I feel like if you have events like this, you you need to be all in on it or not. Cuz if you're not, it just has all of that for me it has a lot of trust issues with how authentic you are with your message.
Yeah. So a lot of people on both sides of these issues were upset for obviously different reasons. And I feel like what the people against the event were kind of saying was like, well, what do you want them to do? Force him to wear the jersey, blah 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 blah. But a lot of them are missing the point of why a lot of us are very angry about what happened and how it was handled. We've been listening to people talk on their podcasts and like posting about it and whatever it is. And while it's really nice to see a lot of allies speaking out about it now, they're also not going about it in the best way, which, if they're new to talking about it, fine, I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. But, one of our complaints this week was that a lot of these hockey bros are coming on to each other's podcasts and talking about it and like how they feel about it and like what it meant to them and like imagine it, quote unquote imagine what it felt like for someone who actually is a part of this community, blah blah blah. Where it's like, why don't you talk to someone who's a part of that community so they can tell how they feel about it instead of you asking your other straight hockey bro about what it is that, how they feel about it. Like, these dudes obviously have more power and more influence within the community because of, they're part of whatever news article outlets. What do you call them? But it would be nice if they talk to anyone. Like there's people who are part of these outlets. What do you call them? They're the websites, the hockey websites like Hockey Now and stuff, who are part of the community, right? Like they could easily reach out to someone and be like, "How did you feel about this? Because this is how I see it." But you know, not being a part of the community, it's not. It doesn't really hold its weight like really in the argument. One thing that really bothered me on one of the podcasts I listened to was that you know, some guy was saying, it doesn't really bother me that he didn't wear the jersey. This is blah, 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 this and that. And it's like, of course it doesn't bother you because this issue does not affect you. How about you invite somebody else so they can tell you why this affected them? And a lot of people either don't realize or refuse to acknowledge that the reason we get so upset that the religion argument angers us so much is because the religion itself is basically saying that we are living in sin. We need to change in order for God to love us, whatever, whatever. And it's like, didn't first of all, didn't Jesus die for our sins? Right? Is this not does this not count? Does if we are living in sin, we're all living in sin. I hate this argument. Anyways, I can't. I'm getting too heated.
So I have a little story to tell, but before I do that, I want to, on when you mentioned how, and, I was listening to some podcasts and folks who were giving their 2 cents, and majority of them being cis white males in the hockey world. And again, I felt like you did. Anybody who put out their opinion of how they felt and how, like they received it, it's like, who cares? Who cares how it affected you? The whole point of Pride Night is inviting queer folks into your space and saying, hey, you belong here. And when you have somebody who, if your whole message is inclusion and you have someone going, hey, so like I don't care about that. And the thing that irritates me, and this will get a little clearer with my story, with how like, oh, he didn't, like how Tort said, oh, he didn't come out like banging his drums and saying, profanity towards the LGBTQ plus community. And it's like, that's like not even the worst kind of protest. The worst kind of protests end up where people go and make laws that take our rights away. And those are not the people who are going out there banging their drums, getting in your face, having like they're like going to drag queen events and inciting violence or whatever. Like,
And who are those people taking those rights away, right? People who are citing religion as the reason they're against it. That's why we're upset. That's why we are so angry about this happening.
I wanted to encourage folks to seek out queer folks in the hockey community, even folks that are just on their socials, just tweeting out their thoughts and opinions. They don't need to have a podcast like we do. I tweeted out the other day that Lauren, who is a host on SDPN's Game Over, had Robert on the other day. They were reacting to the Toronto game that just happened to be, I think, the same night as the Flyers event, or could have been within that time frame, and they had a lot of good things to say. I also wanted to mention that Jay Niemeyer, I think is how you say his last name. He also wrote an article talking about it. There are so many folks out there who are reacting to it and are part of the community. And those are the folks that, if you actually give two shits about talking about pride nights and honestly care and not just looking for like, oh, this is going to be the hot new topic today. Well, we got to talk about it so we can get the clicks, we can get the listens. Like if you actually care, then you need to be listening to these folks, because if you don't actually care, then I don't actually want to listen to you.
Right.
So with that said, my feelings with this religious argument, I guess I'll just get right into it. So this person was my best friend in high school. We did everything together. I was at their place so often. I hung out with their family. I knew their siblings, everything. I was very, very aware that they were Christian. But at the time, me being 13, 14, I don't remember when I met them. It basically a school friend, you know. Um, I knew about religion. I didn't know the inner parts of it. I just knew that, oh, like Christians and Catholics, they, you know, there's this God and they go to church. For the most part, religion was just a thing. It was there. People I knew were religious, and that's all I knew. I didn't really start to understand aspects of it until we went off to college and I was still in contact with this person. We would talk weekly. We would talk about, oh, like the cute people, you know, the cute boys that are like at our school or something like that, and whatever. And there was one summer that they came back, and of course, well, my friend's back in town. Of course, I've got to go hang out with them. Like, I haven't seen him in forever. And it was the same time that I came out and I was attracted to this queer friend of mine. And of course, someone that is super close to you, that you've talked about the boys in the past that you've dated, the boys that you know, are interested in, and all that stuff. Why would I not think I'm going to tell this person, right? You know, naive me, having no understanding of like how Christianity views queer folks. No idea. And I don't even remember being nervous. I was just really excited to tell this person, my best friend, oh my God, I'm like really in love with this friend of mine and I really need to tell you. And so we were driving back from hanging out and like drove up to their driveway, and I decided to tell him. And I was just talking about it just as, you know, like engaged as I am right now. But after I was done talking about it, I remember the deafening silence. I remember looking over at my friend and they're speechless. And I remember sitting in that space. I remember them getting out of the car. And to this day, we've never really spoken about it. I have not hung out with them in almost 2 decades. And I just can't get past the fact that you don't think, if there is a heaven, you don't think I'm going there. You believe in traditional families, which that's another thing I don't like, outside of like, it's not even like a queer thing, it's just a society thing where for the most part I grew up in a one parent household. My parents are divorced. So for people who constantly talk in relation to queer folks about how children need a mom and a dad, and it's like, cool, what about me though? If I were not queer, what are you saying about me? My mom did a phenomenal job without my dad in the picture, and even when he was in the picture, can't tell you much about what he did. Mom was always there. My mom, she was a nurse. She worked the night shift, and at the time growing up, I didn't really appreciate or understand the reality that she goes to work for like 8+ hours a night. She comes home, takes a nap, and has to cook for us, has to take us to, whatever event. And I was a kid who did so many things. So my mom was going everywhere with me. She was excited to see me do all these things. And it's like, regardless of whether she had work the next day or whether she just got off of work, she was there. And so for folks to bring in that whole, oh, I believe in like traditional families, it's like, well, regardless of my sexuality, I don't come from a traditional family.
Right. Did your mom support you when you came out?
Yes. The way that I came out to her was like I didn't have like a sit down. I didn't, like when I told her about it, I wanted it to be more of a casual thing, and I think I have a lot of privilege in occupying that space. She was in the Philippines at the time, and I was gonna like when I had my first long term queer relationship, I wanted to, make it official on Facebook and whatever. And I just knew if I did that before telling her, it was not going to be good. So I sent her a message. I thought about calling her, but at the time, like, that took a lot of coordination, and I'm like, oh, I can't wait. Like, I just want to get this done. So I sent her a message, and I just told her, hey, just want to let you know I'm dating so and so. Hope you're doing well. XYZ, not nothing to it. And I remember her sending me a message saying that, she'd been worried for a while because I wasn't in a relationship for, a number of years. And in her own way, I think she was saying that she was happy for me. And I mean, after that, like, I was living out of state at the time, and I brought the person I was dating with me to come back and visit and see my friends, see my family. So, like, so um, they met my mom, they met my Lala at the time, and so my coming out, quote unquote, was, I think, went as well as I wanted it to. I didn't want to make it a big deal, and it didn't feel like it was made into a big deal. Um, but yeah, as far as like family is concerned, like that was never an issue for me. But with friends, I've definitely had to step away from another folks that I grew up with. And the only main factor in that was our differences in things that have nothing to do with them.
I want to go back. It's related to what you just said. The point that Tortorella made about Provorov and how he respects him and how he's being true to himself, ironically. I'm pretty sure Jay, how do you say their last name?
Niemeyer. I'm so sorry if we are butchering your last name.
But shout out.
Please come over and tell us how it's pronounced.
Oh yeah, here it is. Ironically, Provorov was true to himself by snubbing a night intended to celebrate a community that ultimately seeks to do the same without threats of violence. Like that line as part of their article really stood out to me because it pretty much puts into words what I've been feeling. When I first saw that, Tortorella said, "Oh, Provorov is being true to himself, and I respect him for it." And it's like, that's literally like this whole pride thing is about us living our lives authentically, right? Being our authentic selves, being true to ourselves, and we want the world to let us live peacefully without threats of violence just for existing. There's also the bit that everyone keeps bringing up about Tortorella's comments about how he felt about the Black Lives Matter protests and the kneeling during the national anthem. That's been, people are defending him, saying, "Oh, he walked back on those statements, blah blah blah." But in his statement afterwards, like a couple days later after the game, and there was all this backlash about what Provorov did, he said he still feels the same. He just does not. He was wrong in the way that he thought he needed to impose those beliefs onto somebody else by sitting them on the bench for it. But he still feels the same. And so it's really infuriating to see that he does not stand for something that is literally for human rights, right? AKA Pride Night, where we're trying to change everyone's point of view and seeing us like normal people, because we are. He's against people protesting peacefully in a way that really stands up against police brutality and everything else that Black Lives Matter stands for, really, like the violence against Black people mostly, people of color, but Black people mostly. But he sees it because like his point of view is because his son is in the military, he sees it as disrespectful to those men and women, were his words, right? Men and women who serve in the military. That's what the anthem is about to him. When Do you wonder if the anthem stands for the same thing for every other country in the world, or is that just America?
Well, that's definitely about us.
Right? Interesting. How the American national anthem only stands for the military and respecting those who serve, only in America, but nowhere else in the world. Usually the national anthem is to be proud of the country you live in, right? The protests are usually about, this country does not represent me. I do not feel safe in this country because there are acts of violence towards people in my community. That is what I'm protesting.
And the people who are stepping up and saying that they are offended or seen as disrespectful, have you looked in the mirror lately? Because we can go back to like what we were talking about a little bit over the course of the week. The folks that like even I've been thinking about how to approach this, and I don't know if there's any good way other than just to say it, that there are some folks within our community that we saw in the past week. You can play a founder from that organization who tweeted out a message that was a both sides argument, and later on took it down, deleted it, and completely ignored the fact that no, there were a lot of people who saw that, and you feel like you can just go along your merry way and not, acknowledge the fact that, clearly you feel like you made a mistake, but you're just not going to
Address it.
not going to address it. And we need to remember that even within our community, where all of us to varying degrees are marginalized, the community as a whole is marginalized. We do not have equal rights to the heteronormative people within society. But when you start giving space to folks like a Provorov who are standing up and, saying like, no, I respect you guys, but I won't, I won't participate in this thing. Like, no, there's no space for these folks. And if you feel like you should give space, you need to consider your siblings who are people of color who are affected like daily with more than just their sexual orientation, their gender expression, their gender identity. Those are things that I, tomorrow if I like got up and I presented in a way that is heteronormative to society, sure, I could probably shield the fact that I'm queer, but I can't shield the fact that I was assigned female at birth. I can't um, get away from the fact that I am Asian American. And those are things that affect how I view the world, how I allow folks into the spaces that I view as sacred and safe for me. And when we start giving space to these folks who don't realize the harm that they're causing, I I feel like that sets us back.
Yeah.
So I wanted to end on a happy note that this past Oscars, I'm not really big on watching the award shows much anymore. I'll just like catch the recaps, like okay, who won and all that good stuff. If you haven't seen Everything Everywhere All at Once, you need to go and watch it. It is a beautiful, weird movie. It's a wonderful milestone for the Asian American community. You had Michelle Yeoh, you had Ki Hui Kwan. Hopefully, I said that right. The main cast of Everything Everywhere All at Once, they all won in their categories. And in particular to Ki Hui Kwan, if you remember, he is most notable for being in the Goonies, for being in the Indiana Jones Temple of Doom movie. And he's spoken about how he mostly was a child actor because once he like grew up, there were not roles in Hollywood for someone who looked like him. And I was thinking about this last night about how, thankfully now there are um, folks that are in prominent positions in Hollywood that are wanting to uplift and give space to people of color, and there are folks who who are people of color who are getting into those positions now that are able to finally create stories that are relatable to various marginalized communities. And at the end of the day, I think it's important to remember that our stories don't always need to be around the fact that we're Asian American. Like when you think about the big movies that are out there, like I don't know, the one that comes to mind, but it's probably not the best example, is something like Top Gun. Like why does Tom Cruise need to be the main cast? Like why can like I mean I know why we don't see someone like an Asian American like as the lead. They're worried about, oh well, no one will know this person, or like no one will be able to relate, or there's too many bigots out there who aren't going to watch this movie and therefore this movie won't get watched, and like we won't make money off of this. I mean, yes, those are the most obvious reasons why people of color aren't in these big movies, and they aren't put into the main cast roles. They might like be the buddy or like the sidekick. The stories that are coming out these days, yes, I love the ones that I can relate to on a cultural level, but at the end of the day, these stories and these roles that are given to folks who are super famous are mostly there to sell the movie. It's not because, oh, this is their story. No, it could be everybody's story. It doesn't have to be like, oh, but this couldn't possibly be given to a Latino person because we don't bring in like the Hispanic culture into it. And it's like, no, it's like not even like a priority. Just the visibility would be enough. So, and I'm happy that this movie was created and these amazing actors were given the opportunity to shine, and it's been received so well, and I hope to see more of them in the future.
I haven't watched it yet, but I will.
It's very weird. I'm just gonna lead with that, but just kind of it's a lot of fun. There's a lot of like WTFs, like, but it's funny because like Michelle Yeoh's character reminded me of my mom, and the Stephanie who plays her daughter reminded me of my sister. So there's a lot of like fun, cultural aspects of it. Just immigrant family just trying to make it, in the U.S. and like the struggle of being ABC, and then you just have the weird like fantasy aspect of it.
One last thing. We
Okay.
need to show off our shirts because I see that you're wearing your Filipino Jets shirt.
Yes. So I finally, because little context, I got it months ago, but the seller sent me the wrong cut. And so after months of trying to get a hold of their contact in Winnipeg, I finally did, and they sent me another one. So it's just the Filipino Heritage logo that the Winnipeg Jets did
It's so
a
clean.
couple of
I
months
love
back.
it.
Yes, super fun. Yep.
I'm wearing this one because of our hot topic today. It says, I can't move this. Hold on. It says proud. And it's like a rainbow
Nice.
tie dye shirt.
Well, yep. That's our 2 cents about all those things. If you made it this far, we really appreciate you. Like, we've been trying to create space for ourselves in communities for so long, and
Decades.
um,
Forever.
if you are going to host nights like this and you're trying to be the change, you need to meet us like 100% of the way. And um, yeah, so that's it for our episode for today. Thank you for listening. I am your host, Jay.
Hi, Nessa. Thanks for joining us.
All right, take care.
Bye.